Hello and welcome to another video. In this video I will show you how you can use the new GPT-5 model together with FastAPI in Python and how you can implement an interesting easy endpoint and the task so we can test out the new model and see what you can do with it. For that I implemented a task which we can use on our Celery, with Celery to run in the background. You can also use background tasks for that, but for the sake of production similarity, we're going to use Celery. Background tasks can also scale a bit, but for this we will just use Celery in this case. So I will jump first into our core where we have the endpoints. We have the analyze endpoint, which will take an URL of the website we want to analyze. It will enter the task into Celery, which I will show you later. And this endpoint is going to return us a task ID, the status of started, a message, and where we can check the results for this task. We also got the results endpoint where we can pass in the task ID to check the progress on our task. If the task is succeeded, we can return the result of the task and return the status of completed and the website we analyzed. If we have an error in this case, we can just return the error message. If the task is still progressing, we can return the status of processing and return this to the user so he can check again later when the task is finished. Now I will jump into the tasks file where we define our Celery task. This is the file where we define the task. We can see that I have a simple Celery setup. Like you can see here, we use Redis for the broker, for the message broker. You can ignore this. We only need the Celery app in this case for our showcase. So I will now jump back into the task. I'm using LangChain to interact with the model. You can also use the OpenAI SDK for that. But I think LangChain brings some interesting features which we don't need in this case. But if you want to build more complex agents, for example, or features, you can use LangChain for that. You can see we use the GPT-5 mini model. You can also use the large model, but for this simple task, we only need the mini model, and it's cheaper for tokens, so we can just use this one. You can see how I define the Celery task, and then the task is called analyze any website. I define the DB, which we don't use in this feature, in this function, but later you want to save your results into a database, and you need to load the database for this. Then we try to go to our website, where we get the response of the website. And we pass in the URL, which we also pass in the endpoint. We pass this also to our task. We get the response, we limit it, so we don't have or we don't exceed the content size, the context size for our LLM. We get the basic info from the domain, split it, so the LLM knows what website we are visiting. We have a template where we define that the analysis should include the business model, target audience, and other interesting facts we want to know from the website, like also the marketing strategy used on the website. You can define this template like you want. You can define it for other ideas you want to implement, but in this case, this should be sufficient. Then we pass in the human template, we pass in the website URL, the domain of the website, and the content we want to analyze, which we got from our request right here. Now we put in the chat prompt, format the prompt with the content, the domain, and the URL. You do it like that, and then this will be the human template will be filled with this content. We will invoke the model. We make a request to the model. We get the result. Then we try to load the result into our AI analysis variable. And if we get an error, we just load in the plain text from the results.content. Then we will return the task. We can return success, our URL, the domain, when we generate it, and the full analysis. We can also return the content preview of what we got from our request, and the report ID, which will be just a unique string. If we get an error, we will just return that one. It's important to note that you need an OpenAI API key for this, and you can get that one on the official website, but you need to pay for some tokens, so you can actually use this use the LLM. I will now jump into the FastAPI docs, where we can check and test out this this feature we implemented. we can jump into Analyze. We will just use a sample website. I used Dribble for this one. I'm going to copy the domain, just like that. Go into our endpoint. We're going to try out this endpoint, paste in the URL we want to check out. We're going to execute. Like you can see, we got our task ID, which we'll just copy. The message that the endpoint has started the task. And we could use this redirect to check out how far our task progressed, but we're using the FastAPI docs, and we can just go into this one for that. Try out, paste in our task ID, execute, and now we can see the status of progressing and that the analysis is still running. We just wait a few seconds and we can check again. If you want to implement this in the front end, you could make a request to the endpoint again, or you can also use server send events, so you can just send an event from the server when the task is finished, for example. But it's really simple to just request the API until the task is finished, because it's not a lot that is being returned while you progress or while the task is processed. All right. Now you can see our status is completed for the website dribble.com. You can see the business model, the summary. Dribble is a visual-first online community and marketplace for designers and other creative professionals. We can see the primary revenue streams, subscriptions. We can see the cost structure, platform hosting and CDN cost. We can see the target audience, creative professionals, designers, illustrators, motion UI and UX. And you can see this is a really long analysis. We can do a lot with this model. And you can see also when this was generated. Now you could further optimize this function, load this into the database, so we don't have to regenerate this again. And you can later load all of that from the database. But for this showcase, we don't need to do that. By the way, if you want to implement this in your own app and need a fast template where you can implement auth, payments, and etc., you can see all the endpoints that we have. We can get products. We can create checkout sessions for our payments for our users. We can log in users with OAuth, for example, with Google or GitHub. So if you want to use this template, go and check out FastLaunchAPI. This is a full production-ready FastAPI template, and this is the one I used for that one. You can see the clean project structure, and I just needed to add those functions to make this work. So if you're interested, feel free to check this out and try to do something on your own with GPT-5, because it's an interesting model. And feel free to comment your stuff in the comments and share what you built.